There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
All month long here on CMA Networks, we've been challenging the top car audio brands as to answer the question, what is audiophile grade? And today's brand, Audiocontrol, have some very unique answers for this story. You want to stay tuned? We've got Matt Palumbo in the studio with us today, all about Audiocontrol. This is CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. Audiocontrol, and it starts now. What's going on, everybody? And thanks for tuning in to another CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Now, if you're like me, you're a car audio buff and you love geeking out where we're talking about capacitors and crossovers and all these great terms. And this session, this month, is completely dedicated to geeks like you and myself. We've got a different brand every day. And today we've stumbled upon a really, really great brand right here in the US that has a rich history developing and engineering new product. And during the audiophile sessions, we've been asking everybody, what is audiophile to you? So to answer this question, this is going to take place in kind of two parts. I'm going to need a co-captain through this journey. We're going to reach out to the distributors of Audiocontrol here in Canada, the folks at Gemsen. And with us today is their national sales manager, Mr. Dave Singh.
Hey, Ben, good to see you again.
Dave, thank you for joining us today. We're talking about audiophile grade gear. At Gemsen, you guys have an incredible catalog. You're fortunate enough to actually appear during these sessions on multiple occasions with different vendors that you have. Today, it's about Audiocontrol. My question to you, Dave, is, how internally and to your customers, what do you think of when you're thinking about Audiocontrol products and the quality and the grade of product that they offer?
Well, certainly Audiocontrol products have been around for decades now. I believe they're 45 plus years now, and they've always been known for coming up with solutions that were designed to make your audio experience better. In fact, Audiocontrol slogan is making good sound great, and that really goes down to the roots of the company. There's many car audio brands that have been around for a number of years, and their direction have changed. Their people have changed, what their goals are, but the goals of Audiocontrol have always remained the same as being, let's make the best experience possible with the gear we provide. And since their start, being a signal processor company, fast forward to today, not only have they really dominated the industry with signal processing solutions. Now they have amplification, DSP solutions, et cetera, and they're still regarded as the same type of company as they are today, as they were 40 years ago. And unfortunately, with many of the brands that are out there, some of those brands may still exist today, but they're not the same level of what they once were. So Audiocontrol, in our eyes, has been top-notch from the ground up, and they've stayed true to their word.
I couldn't agree with you more. I love how it feels like it's a big company, but a small company. It's the only way I can kind of explain it. And it always comes through every time they come onto our platform and do any type of training or presentation. So the other thing I want to point out, which is interesting and unique, and I hope Matt gets into this, of all the brands that we deal with within the car audio industry, Audiocontrol is one of the few that have expanded beyond car audio and offer product in other categories such as home. And when I say home, quite high-end home as well. I don't want to give away everything, but that's certainly something to consider if you're thinking about investing or partnering with a brand that is truly invested in top sound.
I agree. And getting in the home audio market, especially if you're a car audio company, is not easy. There's many that have tried, and it's a difficult atmosphere to be in, as well as when you're into high fidelity sound. I mean, the criticism and the critique is at a much higher level than there is at the car audio level. So to be able to be in that game and be successful and be regarded as one of the top brands, period. I mean, they've really achieved an amazing feat.
All right. Well, let's dive deeper in today's conversation. Let's go ahead and connect with, well, the man, as far as I'm concerned. His name is Matthew Palumbo. He represents Audiocontrol, and he is standing by to join our conversation. Let's bring in Matthew. Mr. Palumbo, welcome, and welcome again back to CMA.
Thank you. Good morning.
Today's an interesting one. We've done many of these now where we've kind of focused on a specific theme. We've done some DSP training, we've done OEM integration. That's another category, Dave, to add to that menu that you said that Audiocontrol has expanded to. We even did a whole episode just celebrating the epicenter, right? Today's conversation is going to be very specific. We want to geek out a little bit. We want to get behind the veil, underneath, into the chassis, if you will, and really find out and talk about what makes Audiocontrol tick. There's been a lot of evolution, some changes. So first and foremost, what would you want to achieve with this conversation today, Matt?
Sure. So, I think today is a great opportunity to just give people kind of a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, about what makes Audiocontrol not only audiophile grade, but also just a awesome company to do business with and get your products from and help to make your system sound great, right? Like Dave alluded to there, our kind of tagline or motto is making good sound great, and that really kind of drives everything that we do when we're building products, designing products, how we do things. It's, does this make it better? Does this contribute to making it sound great? And that's really what it's all about.
That's amazing. We're definitely going to dive into that. For those joining us for the first time, I mentioned other videos. Just head over to our website, cmanetworks.com, go to our brands, hit Audiocontrol. Ton of catalog of videos that Dave and I have done with Audiocontrol over the last 2 years. Okay, so let's dive in. I think you have a presentation that we can kind of follow along and discuss point by point. This one's interesting. I'm not expecting specs. I'm curious to see what Matt has put together for this one. So let's go ahead and pull that up.
Absolutely. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit, kind of first is kind of where we are as a company and where we've come from and how we're headed into things. And I think, there's a lot to talk about there. And one of the things that I think people are maybe curious about right now is, some of the recent news that's come about with Audiocontrol and things like that. A little bit about me there. I'm the national sales manager for Audiocontrol. I've been with the company for about 3 years now, and been in the 12-volt industry about 19 years or so. And for those that don't know me, I first got interested in car audio via mini trucks and Lowrider magazine, and bought a car at 14 just so I could start installing car audio, that sort of thing. So I've been, just geeking out on car audio pretty much my whole life. And just interesting fact about me, I was a wedding DJ for about 10 years. So if you're curious what I used to do, a little bit about me. As far as, some of the news that you may have heard though recently, like I said, Audiocontrol was acquired by AMP Global. So we're now part of the AMP family of brands. And, there's always, with any acquisition, I feel like there is some hesitance there, some hesitancy from people with like, oh man, are they going to just swallow this company up? Are they going to change everything? What's going to happen? So on and so forth. And what I think, people need to think about a little bit more is like, in this case, yes, that does happen sometimes. I totally get that. But in this case, think about, what we could do together is how we're looking at it. Like, we have so much that we can do together. If you look at what Audiocontrol is really good at, which is making great sound, right? Amplification, high quality sound, DSPs, things like that, things that just sound good, right? And we had done really, really well the last 40 some odd years in what I call kind of the analog space, doing high to low converters and LOCs and amplification and things like that. Obviously, there's lots of digital stuff happening there, but to me, it's still speaker wires and RCAs is what I mean by analog. And then you take Amp, who has brands like Stinger and Phoenix Gold and Echo Master and all these great brands under their family of brands there too, Pack. And what are they really good at? They're really good at integration in the digital space, which I mean CAN bus networks and data bus programming, things like that. So with that, you take the digital side of it that they're really good at, and you take the audio side of it that we're really good at, and you put those two things together, and we're going to have some absolutely unprecedented solutions.
I have to comment here. I work very closely and have the honor of working with both companies now for quite some time, with AMP as well as with Audiocontrol. And when I first heard rumblings of this partnership, with this new joining of forces, it made total sense to me. Everything that you and I, Matt, have discussed, where sometimes you wish you had a little bit more. Let's call it, marketing support or whatever that may be. Man, Amp's got a great marketing team. Like, this is amazing what they do. And I think that all those little elements that could really help Audiocontrol focus on what they do best, while maintaining a certain stature with, the modern business world. And now adding to that what you said with the digital assets, such as Pack, especially. I can't wait to see where that's going. But I can only imagine. It's very exciting. So, when you first started this page, you used the word hesitancy. I think it was mild concern because of other scenarios that have happened before in other businesses and other things. I don't know if hesitancy, this is my opinion, but on the flip side, I can see there's a lot of excitement built around it. And I'm already starting to see where this is going. Dave, would you like to comment on this?
We were super excited when we heard about the arrangement or the new partnership. I like Matt said, both companies do things very well, and they both have their own niches. Certainly, AMP having more vehicle specific or being dialed into vehicle specifics. So now marry that into the possibilities of, OEM integration on the audio control side. The sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
I think that's another whole conversation we can dive in for another hour. So let's just leave it at, this is an exciting partnership or new embodiment of the group, and unprecedented solutions, I think, is the right term there. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. When you said their marketing team and this and that, that's the only other thing I would comment on, is just the amount of, if you thought Audiocontrol was great a couple of years ago, just imagine what we could do with a bigger team and more resources. That's all I would say. So we'll move on from there, like you said. So diving into what makes Audiocontrol Audiophile great, right? That's the question. That's what we're answering today. That's what we're talking about. We're a passionate group. Audiocontrol is a passionate group of people, as is the team at AMP. And so together, again, it makes a lot of sense. But when I look at Audiocontrol as a company and what makes us Audiophile grade, why do we deserve to be in these Audiophile sessions, right? We're in pretty good company here. I've seen some of the other sessions you've done. I've seen the list of brands. We're in good company. This is a good category to be in, right? I'm honored to be in that same group. What I really think it comes down to, though, is three things. It's the brand itself, the people that make up the brand, and the products. And I think, to me, that's what makes us Audiophile grade. So as we kind of go through, those are the kind of key topics that I'm going to dive into a little bit. And as Dave mentioned before, a big part of that is our history. Being around for a long time certainly has its benefits. We're a little over 45 years now in the business, and you guys alluded to it a little bit as far as kind of where we've come from and the other categories that we're in. But we do a lot more than just car audio, and that's something we'll talk about here. But something a lot of people are kind of familiar with is, the fact that we're a Seattle brand, right? We're from Washington State. Audiocontrol was started in Seattle area. It still continues to be there. That's a question I get a lot, is, are you guys moving now? Are you guys going to be in Florida? No, we're still in Mount Lake Terrace, Washington. We'll still be there. So that continues to be the case, and all of the fun little things that you see in the manuals about the rainy Pacific Northwest and you know, this, that, and the other. All of that stuff is what makes us us. And it's one of the things that I've loved about the brand, you know, since the get-go, is the quirky little things that make up Audio Control. I just love that stuff. And that's a big part of our brand and who we are. And I think a lot of the enthusiasts really, you know, love that part of Audio Control. They love that we don't take ourselves too seriously, I guess is what I'm going to say.
And there's something about it too. It's kind of unique, you know. Let's be honest. A lot of our industry is kind of focused in two areas. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of Florida, obviously,
Yep.
and now to Audio Control as well to some degree. And there's a lot in, you know, Arizona, California. That's kind of like where the industry is. It kind of makes it.
That's kind of mecca for car audio.
Yeah, right.
Totally.
Seattle, Nirvana, sure, why not?
Yeah, why not? Right? Yeah. So, you know, a big part of what we are as a brand too is you know, just the place itself, right? Who we are, the people that are there. You know, Dave had mentioned something, or you had mentioned something earlier about, you know, some of these brands have new people all the time and it's constant turnover and you never really know who they're owned by anymore and this and that. We've really only had a couple of changes in the total 45 years. And, you know, that's a big part of who we are. So one of the fun things about Audio Control, though, just as far as like the brand and company culture and that sort of thing, is we have a lot of musicians. Audio Control is about a 60-70 person company as far as Audio Control itself employees, obviously much broader now with the bigger family. But as far as there in Mount Lake Terrace, about a 60-70 person company, depending on how many production people we have that day. But, you know, when you get into the building and you look around a little bit, it's fun to take a tour, because you'll see there's guitars on the walls, there's guitar amps over here, there's home theater setup over there, and this and that. And, you know, people usually think it's for looks. It's not. I mean, there's a vast majority of folks in that building that are in some way, shape, or form musicians, right? They're either involved in music production, they produce music for their church, they do scores for films, they are in a band, they are, you know, whatever, playing the piano. There is all sorts of musicians in that building, and it's really fun to be there just on a daily basis. To hear somebody grab a guitar off the wall on their lunch break and go jam for a little bit is pretty cool, you know, and it speaks to kind of our culture as a company.
Very cool. Did not know that. And very interesting.
It is.
And is that the conference room, Matt? Sorry, was that the conference room? Okay.
Yes, that was the conference room. So the conference room is pretty cool, actually. We just remodeled that not too long ago. So it not only has all the guitars on the walls, but it has a full Dolby Atmos surround system in there with all of our theater products. And I'll talk a little more about those here in a moment. So yeah, I mean, with that, you know, the whole Audio Control lineup includes a lot more than just mobile audio. You know, a lot of folks don't know we actually got our start on the home audio side of things. So home is actually where Audio Control started, and then we migrated to adding car audio later on. So the home audio side came in the late 70s, and then mobile audio came in the early to mid 80s. So, but yeah, we have an extensive line of products on kind of all these different categories, and we can dive a little deeper into some of that here as well. But, you know, with that too, I think a lot of folks don't quite realize how far or how deep our roots run in that category. You know, as far as home audio goes, fun little fact, I may have mentioned this in a previous session, but for those of you I see in the chat here, you know, discussing the Epicenter and things like that, fun little fact is that the Epicenter was actually originally a home audio product. The Epicenter originally was developed for folks that are using record players. So back in the 70s,
LP vinyl, no bass.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. When they used to mix those records and actually master them, they would master the bass out of the mix. And it's because, you know, if you maybe remember your parents or grandparents having one, a lot of folks used to have their record player in their living room or whatever. And it was a big piece of furniture, right? It was a big wooden cabinet most of the time. Speakers were built into it, and it was the radio, it was the record player, it was everything. It usually held maybe a mini bar in there or something too, right? It's the 70s. But the problem is
cigar collection, all that.
Exactly. Yeah, they were a piece of furniture back then, you know, it wasn't just electronics. So with that, you know, the producers would actually mix a lot of the bass out of the records because it would make the needle skip, because it was all one unit so commonly. much like a lot of car manufacturers started mixing bass out of their systems, right? Or cutting it off somehow, whether that was at a certain volume point or just permanently speaking, to protect their speakers, right? It's the same theory. But home, they were doing it to make the needle not skip. Well, hi-fi enthusiasts usually have separate components, right? They have these nice big speakers way over there and there. All their components are on a nice rack in the middle or wherever. And they didn't have that problem, so they want that bass back, right? Just like enthusiasts want the bass back, same thing. So that's how the Epicenter actually originally came along, with something called the Richter scale. We also used to have a piece called the phase coupled activator. Really funny, kind of creative name. Sounds like something out of Back to the Future, you know. But that's where the Epicenter got its start, actually, was in home.
And just to be clear, Matt, for those that aren't aware of this level, you know, I happen to come from a 2-channel background, you know, hook selling high-end car home stereo. Like, audio control is not entry level. You know what I mean? Like, go do your research, go check it out, Google it if you want. But like, entry level is not what you may be thinking. It goes very, very high. It has integrated amplifiers, you know, preamp amplifier, two-piece layouts, as well as very high-end home theater receivers.
Yes. Yeah, our home theater and CI, for those of you that don't know what CI is, that stands for custom install, is really where a lot of the audio control, you know, history comes from. And it's where a lot of our technology comes from too. We do a lot of really cool stuff with borrowing tech. So we will, you know, take technology that was originally developed for home theater or home audio or distributed audio, pro audio, whatever, and then take that technology and go, oh, you know what? We could apply this to blank for car audio, much like the Epicenter. And then we share back and forth a little bit. You know, it's the same engineering team at Audiocontrol. Upstairs at Audiocontrol is our engineering team. And having engineers in the building is amazing. Being able to walk upstairs and bring an idea real quick and go, hey, would this work? Or is this stupid? Or, you know, whatever, is great. Being able to go up there and bounce ideas off them and, you know, see what sticks sometimes. But it's also great when you have a question about something. You go, hey, why does this do blank? Nobody better to answer those questions than the engineers that developed the product, right? But my point being, a lot of times we borrow stuff from each other. So if we develop something like AccuBass, for example, which is, you know, for compensating for bass roll-off in a modern vehicle, we've now taken AccuBass and actually put it into some of the home products as well.
Backwards.
Now, yeah, obviously there's no bass roll off in home audio. There's no theater receiver that's rolling off the bass at a certain volume, although I guess there might be. But it's not a common thing like it is in cars. However, AccuBass can also be used just to kind of fatten up the bottom end at a specific volume point. So it's not just a bass boost, it's a, you know, voltage targeted bass boost, so to speak. And so we've used AccuBass in products like our Rialto 2-channel receiver. It's available in some of our other amplifiers as well. And so, yeah, our roots in that category go deep. And like Ben mentioned, you know, our home theater and home amplifier division, these are not products that you're going to go into a big box store and see. These are products that you're going to get from maybe a specialty home theater company or a local installer, the type that, you know, comes to your house and puts a rack in your wall and does all that type of stuff. That's where you're going to find Audiocontrol. I wish I could share, you know, some of the celebrity homes and rock star homes that our products are in, but we usually have NDAs with most of those people and can't usually share that info. But there's some big names out there that love Audiocontrol in their home, so it's pretty cool.
All right.
So with the brand itself too, you know, as far as the different kind of segments we've you know, kind of briefly talked about all of these, but you know, we are heavily into the auto side of things, or mobile audio. I like to call it mobile these days, since it's not just cars and trucks anymore. And then the home side and the pro side, that's another side that a lot of folks just don't really realize we're involved in. And it all carries into this whole audiophile picture, right? It's a lot easier to have a real scope of what is high end, what is audiophile grade, if you're performing at that level in other categories, right? If you're only a mobile audio company and you are audiophile grade, sure, maybe you're great in mobile audio, but a home audio company would look at that and go, those specs or whatever. You know, in home audio, they take things
it's
to
so
this, like,
harsh what you're
other
saying,
level.
Matt. It's so true.
It's
It is
so
so
true.
true. Yes.
Home audio goes to a whole nother level, guys.
Hmm.
Like if you think car audio gets crazy, just go talk to a home audio or home theater
Hmm.
person. I mean, they're remodeling these houses sometimes to
Hmm.
accommodate a piece of gear,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
picture widening the fenders on your car to accommodate a bigger amplifier.
Yeah.
Like that's the level we're talking about here. So it gets pretty crazy. But the pro side is interesting too. I mean, we make microphones and measurement equipment and all sorts of things. Sometimes not even branded as Audiocontrol. You know, we have some partnerships with other companies too, where we develop their microphones for them or produce their testing equipment and things like that. So there's a whole nother category there as well that we won't dive too deep into, but some interesting stuff for sure.
If I can interrupt you, I think one of the
Yes, please.
most popular, pro pieces ever was the 3052 RTA. I mean,
Yeah.
we used it in car audio forever, but in the home audio scene, as soon as you mentioned measurement microphone, I mean, that was the tool out there. I mean, there was nothing else that was really being utilized out there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was, I think, really the industry standard up until just not too long ago when a lot of folks started running the DMRTA instead, right? And the DMRTA is an amazing piece as well, and it makes a lot of sense. I think, for those that are experienced with an SA series, it's very similar to using that. It's just now you're going to do it all, in software instead of with little knobs and dials, that sort of thing. So very similar though, and it works very, very well. So anyhow, getting into a little more of the, the specifics here. We were founded, like I said, back in the 70s. Another little fun fact, we're actually originally founded by Greg Mackey. So if you're familiar with Mackey Pro Audio at all, they've got the little blue symbol with the little kind of guy in there. I didn't want to steal their logo for this presentation, but I think a lot of you are familiar with it. If you've ever been to a concert or to a club or any live sound venue, probably a Mackey piece of gear somewhere in that building or in that venue. And that's the guy that originally created Audiocontrol way back when. So kind of a little fun piece of history there. He was only a part of it, I think, for the first few years, and then sold it to the second owner, and then it's only had 2 other changes since then. So not a lot of turnover, not a lot of changes in all those years. So and then like we've been talking about the legacy of where we've come from. We've been doing basically high-end audio since the beginning. These products were created to a certain standard that I think for a lot of companies was well beyond what they were planning or thinking of doing. And we were just kind of on that path from the get-go. And now I think a lot of companies have caught up, right? And there's tons of great audio out there. We're not the only ones creating awesome products. There is, as you know, tons of companies out there creating really innovative, really high-end, beautiful products that sound amazing. And so it's cool, I think, as an audio enthusiast. If you're a car audio enthusiast today, I think you have the best time ever in our history being able to choose products and have options.
Agreed.
Never has there been a better time,
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, if you look back,
just to, there's always going to be entry level, lower end stuff, and there's a place for that. But I think if you look overall, the average product that's available in the industry right now, man, does it deliver on the value and what you're paying for it?
Yes. One thing I bring up a lot with installers, and I don't want to deviate too far from what we're talking about here, but I think it's interesting, is I was, having one of these roundtable chats at one of these big events, one of these big shows, and I'm talking with all these installers and I'm going, is it just me, or are we not dealing with things like engine noise nearly as much as we used to? And I go, is it that the installers have gotten better, or the installs have gotten better? Is it that the products have gotten better, or that the cars have gotten better? And I think it's a little bit of all three, to be perfectly honest. But as somebody that talks to shops on a daily basis and has, I talk to installers from all over the country and all over the continent. I just don't hear about those issues nearly as much as we used to. And back in like the 90s, that was an everyday occurrence that you were fighting constantly, So just one example of why it's the best time ever to be in car audio,
No doubt. No doubt.
So, and years ago too, there was like, oh, you're going to keep your factory radio. Oh man. Okay. Well, it'll be all right. And now it's like, well, of course you're going to keep your factory radio and it's going to be awesome. The system's going to sound every bit as good as anything else. So some of you are looking at this slide too, and looking at some of those products going, oh, I remember that. Some of these are still, somewhat current. The Epicenter Concert Series is still a current piece, things like that. So, but like that DXS is a interesting digital signal processor that was way ahead of its time. Way ahead of
I'm not even familiar with that piece, to be completely honest with you.
We had a whole line of digital signal processors, DSPs, in like the late 90s, early 2000s, which was, I'm not going to say we were the first ones ever to do DSP. I don't think we were. But I know that at the time, I was an installer at that time. And I remember a customer bringing one of these pieces in and me going, what the hell is this? I mean, it had its own little display up at the dash, kind of looked like a satellite radio tuner almost. We could go down that whole road. But anyway, some cool history there, a lot of neat products over the years. And hey, I just so happen to pick a lot of silver and white products too. There's another shift for you in the industry. So, kind of moving forward here, when we look at what makes us Audiophile great, I think the other side of that is, or part of it is the people. And the people at Audiocontrol are a huge bit of what makes us who we are. Not only, the people that you see, like myself, but the people that are in the office, the people that are building these products, the people that are engineering, the people that are handling purchasing and support and all that stuff. One of the cool things at AC is that there's been a very low turnover. You'll find a lot of employees that have been there a really long time. There are people that have been assembling epicenters for 20, 30 years. There's people that have been building LC2Is since the inception of the LC2I. There's some really awesome people in that building, and it shows, especially when you're passionate about what you want to do, or about what you do, I should say. I think it shows in your work. And I think if there's any one word I would use to describe Audiocontrol and the people there, it's passionate. Like I said, with that many musicians in the building too, like it's pretty easy to be enthusiastic and know what great sound is when you do music or sound or whatever in your free time as well. If it's just a job, if you're just coming in every day and just turning screws, okay, you're just clocking in, clocking out. But if you're actually passionate about what you're doing, it definitely shows in pride of workmanship and craftsmanship, that sort of thing.
Matt, you bring up a good point. I mean, if you don't know what the reference is to good sound, how can you go out to try to reproduce it? If your reference is AM radio, national sound, you're going to have a crappy sounding.
It's a good point. It's an absolutely good point, Dave.
It is. Oh, totally. No, it's a great point. And it's really fun, like I said, to give people like the tour. We don't get a lot of visitors, but occasionally, if Ben comes into Seattle and says, "Hey,
I'm in. I haven't been to Seattle. I've been like 20 years."
Well, come on down. We'll give you the tour, and you can come see people building these products and
awesome.
Go visit engineering upstairs and all that good stuff. But part of that too is, I think the thing that we've really honed in on and figured out a good kind of niche for ourselves is support. And I think support is, and this is somewhat polarizing, support is almost more important than the product. I'm going to let that sink in for a second.
Okay.
I think support is almost more important. And here's why. If you have the world's best product, okay, the best sounding amplifier, DSP, whatever, on the planet, but you can't teach anybody how to use it, or you can't support it if it or when it fails, it's worthless, right? You have to have the people behind it to stand behind it. And that's exactly what we've done. So we have a 5-year warranty on everything Audiocontrol.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we stand behind a product for 5 years and give you literally the industry's best warranty if we didn't think that it was going to hold up, right? We wouldn't. Why would we do that if we were using inferior components or not using high quality products or didn't believe that it sounded great, that sort of thing? We can do that because we know it's going to hold up for way longer than that. I mean, we get people that ship in products to be refurbished or gone through every now and then. You'll get a 30-year-old Epicenter in your hands one day, and there's nothing wrong with it. They just want you to go through it, clean it up, and make sure it still works. It's like, these things stand the test of time, and it definitely shows.
I want to make a comment here. I've been through enough of these things that I really want to make this point across. That warranty that Matt is speaking to is without question a testament to the confidence that you guys have as a brand when you're putting out your product. And that confidence, I'm going to let Dave speak to this. I mean, it is an industry leading warranty program. Okay, that let's make that clear. So we're talking audiophile grade. It's great to talk high-end audio. This is another element to justify that spend. Okay, we're not talking about the most entry-level, cheapest amplifiers here, right? We're talking about higher-end stuff. Know that with Audiocontrol, you're getting that. The second thing is you're talking about it lasts and it withstands. I happen to be an Audiocontrol user. I have an amplifier. I beat the living you-know-what out of it because it's an outdoor amp, because now Audiocontrol does outdoor amps. When I say outdoor, I mean the ACX line, which is all-weather. 100-degree temperatures down to freezing temperatures, rain, sleet, everything I could possibly throw at it turns on and plays every morning. It's just, I just have to say that, no doubt about it.
Yep. And I think a part of that too is, like I said, we can stand behind something all we want, but the other part of that I think is support. And it's something that we get compliments on all the time is tech support. And not only tech support, but also just sales support, brand support, that sort of thing. People like me that can help you, set up set up an amplifier or set up the display in your store, or whatever it is that you need. We have people that you can actually reach out to. And I think it's something that always blows people away when they call us for the first time. When they call Audiocontrol and they get an actual human being on the phone, not one for English and two for Spanish and hold. No, you call and you get a real person that answers the phone. I know, mind blowing. And then, they just say home or car for support, right? If it's a tech support question, home or car, and then they direct you to the right person. And that's it. You might hold a few minutes if they're busy, but other than that, it's not this indefinite hold time or call tag or phone tag, or, sitting on this endless menu that hangs up on you over and over again. As an installer for years and years, I can't tell you how many times I was turned off of a brand because of that kind of support. And that's what I mean when I say I think that the support is almost more important than the product.
Fair enough.
I will tell you this. Kudos to the team at Audiocontrol, because you guys have really stepped up your game, especially on the support side. I've seen it, from a distribution standpoint, and infrastructure changes. Some of the software that you guys have done to follow up with, problems and issues and any of that stuff. I mean, that's a big investment. And I think the beauty of Audiocontrol is you guys are a big company, but you're still small, that you're accessible. You're not this massive conglomerate that is, just a brand, and, you don't know who the people are. It's nice to be able to reach out to, people at Audiocontrol, know you're going to get an answer, or know you're going to have somebody that cares on the other end of the phone and is going to look into trying to solve the problems. And I'll tell you, many times, there's been situations where product may be out of warranty or something like that. And Audiocontrol is not firm on, well, you're out of warranty, so sad, too bad, trying to buy a new one. They are extremely lenient. They want to keep their customers happy, and they'll do whatever it takes. So kudos to the team and the mindset there. And, I'm sure I speak for all the customers that have bought Audiocontrol pieces and said, thank you. I mean, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. I can't tell you how many times I'm in the office and you hear someone call and go, oh, I think I have to buy a whole new whatever epicenter because I lost the power plug to it or whatever. And it's like, don't even worry about it. Just give me your address. We'll ship you a new one, and we just send them a power plug. Like, it's little things like that, that cost us almost nothing, but that makes a big difference to someone, right? And although we're deviating a little bit here from Audiophile, I think it all kind of goes together into what makes us an Audiophile brand. Not so much is that product Audiophile grade. I think Audiocontrol as a company is Audiophile grade, and that's kind of where we're at, is what I think. So, So as far as the people side of things too, one of the things I like to bring up is some of our partnerships. A lot of you may already be aware of this, but it's hard to search car audio on the internet and not run into Audiocontrol. That's not an accident, obviously. But with partnerships like the CMA, which has been huge for us, we've obviously done a lot together, and it's really cool to see the back catalog of videos and all the videos you've done with all these great brands. But we have similar partnerships like that with some of our other online guys. So, Steve Mead, Mark at Car Audio Fabrication, Dean and Fernando at 5-Star, Doug at Soundman Enterprises, Brian over at Mobile Solutions. We have these partnerships with all the big dogs in the industry. And so, to Dave's point, like, we're a big company, but a small company. We are accessible. I don't know how many booths you go into at Knowledge Fest and potentially meet the owner of the company there. Not many, probably, right? Whereas with Audiocontrol, you very well may walk into the president, the CEO, whoever, right in the booth there at a Knowledge Fest or a Mobile Solutions event or whatever. So, or maybe some upcoming events in the future. You never know.
Never know.
And as far as kind of what we've done with where we're sold as well, that's something we've spent a lot of time on in the last couple of years, especially is prioritizing, the partners, right? So the Mesa stores, the brick and mortar guys, we are not the brand that just goes, oh, hey, we only have 100 of these, send them all to the big box. We will usually prioritize the small brick and mortar stores, but we do have partnerships with the big guys too. So it just goes along with that whole, big enough but small enough type thing. So when it comes to mobile audio, I think there's a lot that we do. Ben alluded to a little bit the fact that we offer things like all-weather amplifiers and stuff like that. And I think all-weather is a interesting topic too. We're not going to dive into all-weather amps today, but it is interesting to know that, like, when we designed our all-weather amplifiers, one of our criteria was this has to have the same signal to noise ratio as our big full-size car audio amplifiers. We will not sacrifice sound quality just because this thing has to be able to get wet. And I think that's something that a lot of brands don't do, is they just go, well, it's going to be outside, it's going to be loud, they're going to be on a boat or a Harley or whatever.
They're not going to hear the difference.
Yeah, they're not going to hear the difference. Like, well, yeah, they might hear the difference, and you can't also assume that these products are going to go into these certain situations, because we're finding that a lot of dealers use our all-weather amps in all sorts of vehicles. So, but in the mobile audio space, we do just about everything. So the only things we're not doing is basically speakers and subwoofers from Audiocontrol. But
for now, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows where that goes? You started this conversation with a big where does it go? I don't know. Where does it go?
Right?
Where does it go, Matt?
Options, a lot of opportunities for the future.
I don't know.
So the main category, though, that we wanted to talk about today is, some of the products, right? We wanted to talk about the D series amplifiers today, and that's really, for us, our audiophile grade amplifiers. All of our amplifiers are held to a certain level as far as when we're developing them, what type of specs they're going to have. We won't allow things to happen that are below a certain threshold, that sort of thing. But the products, again, are kind of that third leg of what makes us audiophile grade. We've talked about the brand, we've talked about the people. I think now, it's time to talk about the specific products, right? So, excuse me. When we talk about products and we talk about amplification, the other thing that, was brought up earlier a little bit from Dave was, signal processing. We've been a signal processing company since really the beginning. Things like the ESP2 and ESP3 back in the day that were, spatial restoration, things that created a phantom center channel back when a lot of people didn't really know what that was. An epicenter is a base processor, all sorts of signal processing.
I have to mention it. When I was competing, I had to have my half-din Audiocontrol EQ. Come on,
absolutely.
Now.
4.1.
Absolutely.
Must have.
Phase coupled activator.
There you go.
Phase coupled activator. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Isn't that a fun name for a product too? It sounds very Back to the Future-y.
It's like you put garbage in, it'll play sound.
Right. Exactly. That's funny. So when we're looking at a lot of these things too, even things like the epicenter are technically a signal processor, right? People don't think of them as a DSP, but we've been doing that stuff for a long time. So when it came time for us to develop amplifiers, we couldn't just make another amplifier, right? No car audio shop says, you know what I need? I need another line of amplifiers in my store. I feel like most shops go, oh man, we are amplifier heavy. We have a lot of amps in our store. But with us, it's, hey, we're going to do this our way. And our way is built-in integration, fantastic sound, but easy to use. That's really where we live as far as the DSP and amplifier category. And so obviously we have multiple lines of amplifiers and things like that. But the products that we really wanted to talk about today was more the D series amplifiers. And the D series amps are our integrated DSP amplifiers. So for us, that means a few things. We have a handful of different models in the D series, and we'll talk about those here momentarily. I've also got one here on the desk that we'll crack open and have a look at the internals and that sort of thing. But it's pretty cool, as well, that we actually do all of the programming and DSP work in-house. So, to be totally clear, there's always a lot of questions about like, well, is this just another DSP from some other brand that's slapped into an amplifier, or how's this done? And it's not. It's our own proprietary deal. Obviously there's only so many chipsets out there in the world, but the software is our own software. It's not a reskinned version of someone else's. And we actually do all of the DSP programming, testing, and installation in-house at Audiocontrol. So this is not a DSP amplifier that's being fully assembled in somewhere overseas and then just shipped in on a container. These our products are actually being handled right there in Mount Lake Terrace, and all that finished work is being done there. It's also, I think, pretty cool that every single one of them has been listened to. I know that sounds totally ridiculous, but
what do you mean?
For a lot of folks, they don't realize that most car audio products are not listened to before they come to the store. So most products roll off of an assembly line or a computer, controlled or robotic assembly line, whichever, and get basically hooked up to a machine that says, yes, this passes this test, which could just be, does it produce this voltage? Does it turn on? Does it turn off? Blah, 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 and then box it, ship it. For us, it's different, right? We are not only finishing all the assembly and doing all the testing and programming and all that, but somebody's actually putting on headphones and hooking up speakers and wiring this thing up and trying it before it goes out the door. And again, I know for a lot of folks, they're going, well, duh. I mean, doesn't everybody do that? No,
they don't. And there's value in that for sure.
Yes, 100%. So it's a little bit different than what you might expect from others. So, and there's an image right there of something I snapped just while at the factory one day. So it's pretty cool to see, kind of how it all comes together. So with the actual amplifiers themselves, like I said, we want to talk about the D series amplifiers today. There are 3 amplifiers in the D series family. We have a 4-channel, a 5-channel, and a 6-channel. Before we kind of get into the internals and what makes them, different and that sort of thing, I just wanted to kind of show the couple of different models and some of the things that make them special. So one of the things that's different on the D series amps from what pretty much everyone else has is that we always have this extra input on our D series amps, as well as some of our other amplifiers. But on the D series amps in particular, they have something called a front high level input. And this is one of the little like secret sauce special things that just makes us different, right? So I think, audiophile grade can be looked at a couple of different ways. You could look at audiophile grade and say, well, that's just class AB 2-channel amplifiers. That's the only thing that's audiophile grade. Okay, I think that's an antiquated mindset, but to each their own. To me, audiophile grade means that not only does it sound great, but it needs to sound great regardless of what we're integrating it or putting it into. And that's a big part of what this is all about, right? So with the front high level input, this allows us to feed in signal from an additional input source or an additional set of speakers and basically do, or an additional set of channels and do essentially internal signal summing and do all of our signal processing without having to have extra pieces. And that's something that a lot of folks don't understand is they'll look at the pricing sometimes, even if they are an audiophile enthusiast and they're willing to spend some coin, sometimes they'll look at it and go, man, whatever, 1,000, 1,300, 1,200, whatever it is, it's a lot of money for X amplifier. And you go, well, yeah, but if you look at it and say it's got a $600-700 DSP in it, it's got a $200-300 OEM integration piece in it, and it has all this power amp built into it, suddenly it doesn't seem so bad, right? When you break it down a little bit.
Matt, if I can just add something to that.
Yeah.
Those additional components that you have to get. There's additional time and labor that's involved in connecting those. There's additional cables and all that other stuff. And you're also increasing the possibility of picking up noise and all that other type of stuff, popping of different processors and that sort of thing. So, one of the biggest values in audio control is the fact that the OEM integration is built right into the amplifiers, like you said, and you just don't have to go out and spend $200-300 more just so you can get that signal into the amplifier before you even get started.
Absolutely. And when I talk about things like factory signal summing and that sort of thing, this is what I'm really talking about for those that don't know. I'm talking about vehicles that have, maybe a factory high pass signal going to the top dash, a factory band pass signal going to a front, maybe mid range, and then a low pass signal going to a factory woofer or an underseat woofer or mid bass in the door, something like that. And what are you doing with that? What are you going to do with that if that's your factory signal? If you just grab one of those three, it's going to sound like trash. The bandpass signal would probably be your best bet, I guess, but it's going to be no lows, no highs. It's just going to be that mid-range section there. It's going to be pretty rough. It's going to be tough to ever get that car to sound right.
It won't sound like an audiophile system anyhow.
That's for sure. And if you want audiophile sound, you're going to need full range, right? Yep. You're going to need everything. And that's a big part of what this is. And I think, although it's not specific to audiophile, I think summing and OEM integration is a big part of what we deal with in almost every vehicle these days. And so, although it's not the most exciting thing in the world sometimes, it's important, to be able to do the system that you want to do. So there's some cool features built into these things. So like I said, we've got 3 amplifiers in the family, 4, a 5, and a 6. And, I'm not going to go through all the specs and sit here and read off specs all day, but I do want to show folks out there that maybe aren't as familiar what type of power they can expect, that sort of thing. What you'll quickly notice, though, is that we don't do anything under 100 watts a channel. So even on a mids and highs amplifier, you're going to get at least 100, if not 125 per channel at 4 ohms or 200 at 2 ohms. So they are really powerful for mids and highs amps, right? A 6-channel amplifier with 200 by 6 running a, really nice 3-way component set is absolute bliss. Because for me, I don't consider myself an audiophile necessarily, because I think I like it louder than most audiophiles do. I like it.
Hold on. Are you saying audiophiles don't like it loud, Matt? Is that what you're saying?
I think the stereotypical audiophile doesn't like it loud. I've sat in those cars that have a $40,000 system in them, but they're playing it as loud as I'm talking right now. And I go, that's it. Yeah, it sounds really good. The imaging's amazing. The soundstage is incredible. But can we get a little more volume?
Can we jam a little bit? Can we jam a little bit?
I mean, to me, that's the perfect system. The perfect system to me is one that I can close my eyes and almost shed a tear because it's so, pinpoint accurate and, staging is awesome and everything sounds great and it's wide and it's deep and all this stuff. But then also when I'm on the freeway at 70 miles an hour with the windows down on a sunny day and I just want this thing to rip, I want it to do both. And I'm sick of systems that won't do both. That drives me crazy. So our products can do both. That's my point. So that's the 6-channel, the D612. There's also the D5-1300, which is quickly becoming one of our most popular amplifiers. And for good reason. Not only is it a 5-channel, not only does it have lots of power, it also has that built-in DSP. It also has your built-in OEM integration. Something that a lot of folks don't realize too is all of these amplifiers have outputs as well. So you're not just limited to DSPing the internal channels, you're also DSPing 2 channels of RCA output. So for example, on this D5-1300, it's a 5-channel of amplified power, but then 2 channels of just RCA low level output, right? So it has 8 channels of high level input and 7 channels of DSP output. It's an interesting piece. It's a lot that you can do with those amplifiers. What we're starting to see is a lot of guys doing 2 of them.
You just stole my thunder, man. I was just going to say recently I've seen guys left and right these suckers.
Yep. Yeah, our LC and our D series 5 channels, that's becoming really popular, is just running them one for the left, one for the right. And I mean, if you want to get ridiculous, you could bridge those 4 channels and run them as, have it be a 3-way for each side, right? So, 500 watts to your mid bass drivers, 400 watts to your mid range.
Oh, so
400
you mean
watts to a
you
tweeter.
mean one each
Run them as a
for a three-way. Okay, yeah. And then add a mono made for the subs.
Exactly. Yeah, because
Gotcha.
you have DSP channels to
That's
DSP
a lot of power to your mid bass.
It's a lot, but if we've done it in a couple of the cars that we've had at like shows and stuff. At one of the recent K-Fest shows, we had a charger there, and we had about 400 watts per tweeter, 400 per 3-inch mid range, 400 per 6-inch mid bass, and it was stupid amounts of mid bass, but I love that, right?
Yeah.
I love being kicked in the side of my calf with mid bass. It's fun. Is that audiophile? Probably not.
No, but
it's what I think a lot of us got in the industry for in the first place.
Fair enough.
I love one of these comments, by the way. It should sound like liquid sex being
I was just gonna say, should I mention that?
I love that. That's quote of the day right there. Yeah. Thank you, Raymond. That's awesome. So let's see here. Let's head into the 4-channel. So the D4800, cool little amplifier. This is probably, it kind of gets slept on a little bit. People go straight to the 5 and 6, which I get, right? More channels, more power, blah, blah, blah. But the D4, for its size and its price, is probably one of the most versatile amplifiers in this category. Because physically speaking, this is not that big, right? This is the D48, D4.800. It's not that big. Let's see. Here's an iPhone 13, next to it. It's
Hold
not that big.
Hold on a second. Let's take a look at that closer real quick. Let me just There we go.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I mean, physically speaking, it's not that big of an amplifier. And what's cool is, like I said, you've got all of those inputs and outputs on here with the let's see here, move my finger over. So you've got not only 4 channels of speaker level input, we actually have those extra high level inputs in there. And then what a lot of folks will notice too is that we have an option port and those line outputs. Now we talked a little bit about those line outputs a moment ago and being able to DSP an additional amplifier. That's where the D48 shines, is if you want to do, say, I don't know, 2-channel or go 2-way front components and do them active and then just do a sub in the back, the D48 is perfect for that. Okay, if you want to go active with that, or here, let me back up. You could even start with it passive. Let's say it's your first amp you're buying and hey, budget, you can only buy one piece at a time. Great. They could get a D4.800, put in 2-way components in the front, run them passive, and then bridge the rear channels. You got 400 watts bridge to a sub. And you've got a great little 2.1 setup in there that sounds awesome, has plenty of power, has plenty of output, and still is audiophile grade components, right? And then when you have some more budget, they can go in and go, hey, you know what? I'm ready to go active. I'm going to buy a sub amp. Well, now you rewired a little bit. Now we can go active on those front components, really utilize that DSP, but also DSP that sub amp that you just bought. And the cool part is they don't have to buy a DSP sub amp. They've already got a DSP that can handle it. So all they've got to do is add a sub amplifier and they're set, right?
Sorry, question. Aesthetically, if I did that with the other chassis, do they match as far as
they do?
They do, eh?
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna let me click past this actually, and I'll show right there. Yep, there we go. So the sub amplifiers that you would add on basically look the same. And for example, the LC 1.800 is this exact same chassis size. So if you're going to put them in a rack next to each other or something like that, it's perfect. They look beautiful. They also do have cover plates that hide all the controls and all that stuff. And on the D series, there's really not any controls on there anyway. It's just all LEDs and indicator lights. But one of the things that we kind of glossed over, I'm going to back up here a little bit, go back a couple slides, is the software. So the software itself that runs this too, although, like I said, we consider the D series amps audiophile grade. I think there's lots of folks out there that would agree that have used them. The software is one of the easiest DSP softwares to use. We can teach people how to use it over the phone. I have retailers selling this piece to over-the-counter consumers that want to DIY their install, and they're having no issues. There's something to be said for software that can be figured out on your own in 20 minutes or a half hour.
Matt, we covered this because there was an update to that GUI, and literally less than an hour, guys. If you want to check it out, top to bottom, I think Matt presses on every button. Less than an hour.
Absolutely. Yep. And then for those of you that are already D-Series amp users and are wondering, we do have a cool update coming for that software. We have some really neat features that are coming very soon. Somebody just mentioned in the comments too, and it's a really good point, that there is also an RTA built into the DSP software. So for those of you that have never used it, it's going to actually show you what your incoming signal looks like in the software. And like Ben mentioned, we've covered that in another episode or another session, so we won't dive too deep. But I did want to mention we are really close to getting this app update done. We've been talking about it for a while now, but as is life these days, everything gets pushed back and delayed. However, we are literally weeks away from being finished with this. So the parametric EQ is going to be huge for those of you that know how to use that. That's going to be a big feature. Separating the left and right channels is big. Adding all pass filters is going to just really step up our game as far as integrating and OEM integration and combating some of those issues that come up when you're dealing with some of these modern vehicles. So also some new crossover stuff, all that's going to be exciting for those that are interested. One of the other cool features though on the D-Series amps that I love to bring up when we're talking about audiophile grade and high resolution audio and things like that is the fact that we have an option port on our D-Series amplifiers. So there's that little port there. I also point to it on the slide. And what it does is it allows you to plug in things like the BT24, which is just this little Bluetooth chip. And it allows you to stream Bluetooth straight into the amplifier. But more than that, it allows high-res Bluetooth streaming. So it's an aptX HD Bluetooth chipset. It allows high-res Bluetooth stream from compatible smartphones. And what's nice is let's say you're working on a vehicle that you're having trouble integrating with. Maybe it has a complicated factory system, and no matter what you do with that signal, no matter how you sum, no matter how you try to manipulate the signal, you just can't quite get it to sound perfect, but you get it close, right? The BT24 is a great solution to that. You could consider it a Band-Aid, I guess. To me, I consider it a solution. And that is, hey, I'm going to set up a preset then in my DSP to where preset number 1 is going to be the OEM system integrated in, and it's going to sound really good and it's going to work well. And I have all my factory sources. But if I want to sit and literally listen to something and just hear it be as good as it can possibly be, I'm going to switch to preset 2, which is going to be the signal from my BT24. And now I'm streaming straight into the amplifier. Well, I just bypassed all of that factory sound system, right?
Right.
Now I'm going straight into that amplifier, and with a high-res signal, I'm bypassing all the analog integration side of it. And what's cool is, maybe you have a vehicle where you don't need a head unit. Maybe you just want a tablet and an amp with a Bluetooth chip. You could do that and still have a audiophile grade, awesome sounding system without having to add cheesy Bluetooth, add-ons and controllers and all this stuff. You could do it all with stuff that's already built in and already there, which I think is pretty slick.
If you have a Assel and Kern or something like that, a portable, high-res media player, you could use one of the inputs on the amplifier. And like you said, Matt, create a preset so that, your high-res media player is now the source. So
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And so we talked about this a little bit too, that RCA output. I think a lot of folks don't always understand that there is that extra output there from the DSP. It's just a value add, I think, to me. And yeah, like we talked about a little bit, is on pretty much all these amplifiers that there's some sort of integration built right in. So when we look at, even something as simple as our sub amplifiers, there is at least an LC2I built in, if not a DSP or an LC7I or something else in there, which is pretty cool.
Can I challenge you on that, Matt?
Yeah.
When you say there's an LC2I built in, you mean the exact same component, take out the chassis and found a way to put it onto that board in the amp?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, you won't find an LC2I board literally physically pasted
No,
in there.
no, because you don't need the power and you don't need all that stuff. But I mean, the actual processing part.
Correct. Yeah, same exact stuff. So like you take an LC1800, you're going to match it up to your D4800 that we're talking about today. In that LC1800 is an LC2I. It has Accubase. It has the high level input capability. It has all of the same features as an LC2I. It just so happens to also have about a 1,000 watt, we'll call it 800 amplifier built into it as well.
So it's attached to it.
Pretty slick. Yeah, it just happens to be slapped.
I guess it depends how you want to word it. Is it the amplifier that was built around the LC2I, or is the LC2I incorporated into the amplifier?
Right. Same. Yeah. 6 one way, half dozen another.
If I can chime in, we keep saying LC2I, but there might be some people that may not be familiar with, what that thing is. But really, it's the industry's best LOC device out there. You can take 40 volts of input and put that right into the LOC. So your factory high-powered amplifier can connect right to an LC2I and accept that type of voltage without melting down.
Like, don't be scared to plug it in. Don't be scared to plug in the. I mean, sorry,
Yeah.
I should be careful what I say. Yes, always check the voltage, of course, but don't be too concerned before plugging that amp directly to that high level in.
Yeah, we've yet to find a vehicle that we couldn't do, which is, I think, a pretty cool claim to be able to say. Is at this time anyway. At the time of this recording, there is not a vehicle on the road that I'm aware of that we can't handle.
Tesla drops a 124 volt signal.
Right.
Next month.
At this point, I wouldn't even be surprised.
No, exactly.
But so back to the D series. I wanted to just kind of take one, crack it open, and show.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why people are here, man.
Absolutely.
Let's see what's inside.
We can shut off the slides there for a moment.
All right. Do you have another slide after this, Matt? Do we still need the presentation?
Just a thank you. Just
okay. So let's put the presentation away. Yep. And let's get back to our regular screen, and we will zoom in on what you got to show there, Mr.
There we go. So what I've done is just kind of undone some of the screws here so we can take a look at this D4800 and kind of check out. Let me move over more so you can see it. Kind of check out what we're working with a little bit and show you what's inside. So on the outside of a D4800, though, one of the first things you'll usually notice is that there is really no controls or dials on this piece. It's all just status LEDs. Because it's a DSP amplifier, obviously there's no gain control, crossovers, etc. Everything is just LEDs for maximized inputs, maximized outputs, and then our input level clipping source, or source level clip, I should say, and then your communication protection and power lights on there. Sorry, I'm not holding that up very well. There is one little switch on there, which is GTO. GTO is great turn on. That's our kind of DC offset, like auto turn on. That has to be a switch because if the amp doesn't power up, you can't access the DSP. So you may have to physically flip that one in some installs. But so I've cracked open this casing. I'm just going to unplug this little wire here on the top. And what this is actually for, this is kind of cool. There's a strip of blue LEDs on the back side of that top casing. And what it does is just gives a nice glow when we get to the insides of this amplifier. What's cool though is, that blue glow kind of comes up through these fins here. It's a really cool look, but the other cool thing about that is it's not just for looks. So this is a very audio control thing to do, right? This is like the perfect example. With audio control, we wouldn't just put a blue strip in there and make it light up. Like, that's not good enough. It also does status. So depending on what that LED flashes, it's actually telling you something. So for example, if we look at what we have going on there is a handful of different things those LEDs can do. So the blue LEDs on there will flash either for like boot up or reset, or if it's in protection. So you can instantly look back or under your seat or wherever the amplifier is mounted. And if those LEDs up there that are blue are flashing quickly with very short pauses, then it's in protection. Now, then you can look at the red LED and count the flashes and see what's going on with the amp without having to really take anything apart or dig into it too far. If it's just, giving shorter flashes with more space between them, longer pauses, I should say, then it's just doing a reset boot. So there's all sorts of different codes in there. Of course, that's all covered in the owner's manual. Excuse me. But that's essentially what those LEDs are all about. I'm going to loosen one screw here too while we're talking, and I'll show you guys even a little bit more about this.
I can't help but give you props on something, Matt.
What's that?
Is that a Fleetwood Mac LP behind you over your shoulder?
Yes, it is.
Good choice.
Thank you. Yes, I've got not an extensive collection, but a small collection of vinyl back there.
Very cool.
My wife and I have recently gotten more into listening to those at night sometimes. So good way to unwind after the kids go to bed. So
yes.
Yeah. So DSP board right here on top. This is actually the separate DSP board. I'm going to unplug that. There we go. So this is actually the DSP board itself that is running everything there. This is what also has our USB port, our option port, and our ACR3 controller on there. So that's what that plugs into. That DSP board is also, what's obviously running the full signal processor. That's the piece that we are totally programming and doing everything on, in-house right there in Mount Lake Terrace. Some of this is assembled overseas, some of it's finished in the US, and then we add the DSP board here in Mount Lake Terrace in the US, here Seattle, like I said, and then finish all the programming, all of the testing, all the listening, all that stuff all happens right there. So there's a little kind of sub board here as well. You can kind of see it sticks up a little bit right above the fan, and this runs the fan control. It also runs those diagnostic LEDs, and then kind of just seats right below that DSP board. So one of the other kind of fun things on these is, let me just unplug this a little bit here.
I love how you're just tearing that apart alive here.
Yeah, why not, right? Yeah, why not? See if I can find. They all have a little kind of Easter egg on them. I think this one's buried a little bit, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. But they all usually have some sort of little Easter egg on that board. That's a good view of the guts, though, for those of you that want to just see the insides.
Yes. Needless to say, the amplifier's packed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is why when folks come up to me and go, hey, I love your D4800 or whatever it is, but man, why isn't there a blank built into it? And you go, well, physically speaking, we're kind of running out of space here, guys. Even on that top cover panel, right? If you look at all the openings there, there's not much room, man. People are like, oh, can you pack an optical input in there too? It's like,
so that optical input comment has come up a couple of times. I'm going to bring it up. Before Matt even answers this, I'm going to say, take a look at what PAC does, and we'll see what happens. But I'll let you answer that, Matt.
Yeah. So I mean, with the optical side of things, we have optical inputs on our DM series DSPs. So the DM608 and the DM810 have the optical in. So if
just to specify, are we talking coaxial or Toslink?
Both.
Got it. Okay.
Yes. Yep. So good question, though. I'm glad you asked that. So the DM series have both. They have the optical digital coax and Toslink optical input on there. And those are the only products that we currently offer, though, that have those on there. So if you need optical in your system, you'll want to use a standalone DM processor and then LC amplifiers connected to it, and that'll give you what you're looking for. If you're looking for an amplifier with optical built in, we don't currently offer that. I will say we have some things in the works to, expand the option to add an optical port. I think that'd be a fun piece. I'm not 100% if we can make that happen yet, but that's something we've been looking at a little bit. Optical, I think, is going to, and just digital inputs are going to become, I think, more important in the future. And so we have a lot of plans to go that route going down the road. That's about all I can say.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, that was amazing. We did everything we wanted to do. Matt, that was brilliant. Top to bottom, you've explained everything well. I want to thank our audience today. Lots of great comments coming in.
I loved it.
I love to hear some of these stories as well. Now, Dave, any other questions that you may have for Matt that you want to bring to light?
No more questions. I think Matt did a fantastic job, really reiterating the passion behind the people at Audiocontrol and the passion behind, the products that really, brings them to the audiophiles, type status. At the end of the day, the goal of any audiophile is to try to reproduce sound, to try to make it sound as authentic and original, as the original piece it was. And definitely, if you haven't noticed, with all the different solutions that Audiocontrol has to do, whether it's equalization, whether it's a DSP, whether, whatever it is, signal summing, those are all there so that you can ensure that you are getting the best possible signal, the best possible outcome, so that you can enjoy your musical experience as much as possible. It's not just an amplifier that has, RCA ins and RCA outs, which basically just amplifies what you give it. There's so much flexibility, so much thought and engineering that's gone into this product to ensure that you are going to get the best experience possible. So, kudos to Audiocontrol.
I'm going to just layer that as a final thought before I let you go, Matt. The story of the people, I think, was very, very entertaining, but also very educational. I feel anyhow, that we got to know the brand a lot better. The history certainly helps. I did not know Mackie had anything to do with Audiocontrol, so that was a cool plus. I mean, you can imagine I sit through a lot of trainings, but this was one that I seriously learned a lot on, and I'm sure our audience did as well. So on that note, Matt, I want to thank you for coming in. Thank you for putting in this unique presentation and sharing with us why you think Audiocontrol is audiophile grade today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on, and I appreciate the great questions and comments and stuff on the social media there from the audience. That was pretty cool. So some good questions and things in there, and I think, like Raymond said, I think we should finish up by saying, if it doesn't sound like liquid sex being poured over your ears, then you're doing something wrong.
You're going to have to send Raymond some swag or something for that.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't sound like liquid sex poured over your ears, then it's not Audiocontrol.
Fair enough. Done.
All right.
There it is. Thank you so much, Matthew.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, I'm going to close this out with my good friend Dave here. Dave, that was an awesome one. Learned a lot about Audiocontrol, talked about what audiophile grade is. Before I ask you your final message, just bring up some information. If you're interested in finding more about Audiocontrol products, make sure you check out their website, audiocontrol.com. Pretty straightforward. Everything discussed in today's show can be found there, other than maybe pictures of, the conference room and stuff like that Matt was able to share with us today. And if you happen to be listening in from Canada and you're a dealer and you're interested in becoming an Audiocontrol dealer, get a hold of the team at GemSen. They will certainly answer any questions that you have and set you up to be successful with Audiocontrol. Dave, on that note, I'll give you the last word, final message to our audience today regarding Audiocontrol as audiophile grade product.
Absolutely. Well, thanks to everybody that joined us today. I hope they've all learned, the passion, the motivation that goes behind the Audiocontrol products. For 45 years, they've been at the top of their game, and they just keep getting better as time goes on. And, we're super excited to be partners with them, and, really look forward to what's coming down the pipe. Any dealers that are interested in looking at, experiencing this and getting on the ride with us, by all means, touch base with one of our team members, and we'll be happy to help you out. And for the guy that said he's got to start reading manuals, Audiocontrol manuals are a great manual to start reading. There's a lot of little, let's call them jokes in there.
Easter eggs, I think it is. Yeah,
I think they're some of the funniest manuals out there. So, if you're looking for something to do, pick up an Audiocontrol manual. You'll get a kick out of it.
On that note, thank you so much for being with us today, Dave. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
So if you've geeked out with us on this session, and you want to see more, well, you've come to the right place. CMAnetworks.com all month long is dedicated to Audiophile. Yes, Audiophile sessions running all month long. We're going brand by brand, one brand at a time. Tune in every day at noon or 3 p.m. Eastern. Now, for those of you who are working in the industry, if you're a technician, an installer, you have a retail shop, surely you've heard of this show, the Master Tech Expo, going down next March in Arizona. We've teamed up with them to give away 2 free trips, one to a Canadian resident and one to an American resident. Here's your chance to sign up and win. CMAnetworks.com/giveaway, 2 all-inclusive trips to Master Tech Expo 23. And while you're on there, CMAnetworks.com is where the 12-volt industry connects. More videos, more trainings, whether it's DSP, Audiophile, and everything in between. You can find it on CMAnetworks.com. Do me a favor and check out the trainer section where all the top trainers are listed, especially my man, Matt Palumbo. Check out his playlist and all the great trainings that he's provided thus far. That's it for the CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. My name's Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
topics. I mean, yeah, let's talk about.
Stop
you know
it.
what today's the day where I'm gonna go
Yo.
topics.
Roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to Sirius XM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on Sirius XM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?